Hello everybody, Justice R. Stone here with the yearly look at the Kono light novel Ga Sugoi listing. If you're not familiar, Kono light novel Ga Sugoi is an annual publication. They ask readers, reviewers, industry people, what are the best light novels out there? They apply some magic formula to those results, and every year around this time they publish their magazine that lists the top 10 Bunkobon, the top 10 Tankobon, and there's a whole bunch of other, like the top 10 male character, top 10 female characters, top illustrators, etc., etc. The list that I always typically cover are the top 10 Tankobon and the top 10 Bunkobon. In this video, I'm covering the top 10 Tankobon. I'll also post a link at the end of this one to my video for the top 10 Bunkobon, so you can check that out. Tankobon are typically a little bit larger in size, better quality paper, more in comparison to what we in the North American market would call like a trade paperback. It's not exactly equivalent, but gives you sort of the general idea. In any case, this is your top 10 Tankobon. Let's get to it. At number 10, we have I Am the Views and I Am the Death. This one is written by Hiroshi Ishikawa with illustrations by Kureta. VR eros and violence that surpasses reality. In order to become the most beautiful girl in the world, I'm going to wear a diaper. Shinobu Kano, a humble office worker, has become the world's most beautiful girl, Shino-chan, in the world's largest VR space, the Sublime Sphere. In order to meet Tsuyo Sora, the high-class prostitute he fell in love with in the VR world, Shino needs a large amount of money, and together with Miyabi Saiki, a senior employee at his company, they plan to earn money and views by distributing extreme and cruel videos. As they repeatedly set themselves on fire to increase the number of views and earn a large sum of money, Shino grows closer to Tsuyusora, but gets caught up in the conspiracy surrounding her. I mean, the whole diaper thing. That starts off on such a bad foot. But, I mean, it's kind of interesting in a sense. Like, I mean, I don't know. It could be a completely garbage book, but there is a potential in there that it could be kind of a commentary on the sort of extreme things we're seeing people do in videos on TikTok, stuff like that, to try and get popular. Kind of correlating that whole idea of popularity with money, with access to people. Like there's a lot of potential for commentary and sort of like an interesting story in this one, but at the same time, there's so much potential for it to go so horribly wrong. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. At number 9, we have Dahlia in Bloom, Crafting a Fresh Start with Magical Tools. This one is written by Hisaya Amagishi with illustrations by Kei. This one is licensed and being released in English by J-Novel Club. After dying of overwork in Japan, Dahlia is reborn into a world filled with magic. Raised by a master of magical tool making, she develops a passion for the craft and becomes engaged to her father's apprentice. Before her father can see her wed, however, he suddenly passes away. As if this weren't enough, on the day before their wedding, her fiancé announces that he's in love, but not with her. Dahlia finally realizes she needs to live for herself. She vows to be her own woman from now on and devote herself to her craft, even if it's not quite the quiet life she was hoping for. From a chance encounter with a knight to starting her own company, there are challenges aplenty on the horizon, but this young craftswoman is no longer a shrinking violet. She's Dahlia, and she's ready to bloom. So this one has been quite popular on like the top 10 light novels in Japan. Obviously, every time there's a new volume, it places on there. And I think it sounds pretty good. I do I mean, okay, it's an isekai, but and honestly, it's funny because there's no isekai on the Bunkobon list, and yet at least half of this list, the Tankobon list, is isekai. So very interesting how that works, however. In any case, I do like stories about strong female characters and sort of finding themselves and deciding to tread their own path and everything else. I'm kind of curious if this one has like how much of this one has that business aspect to it, almost like how Spice and Wolf had like a lot of sort of commerce and stuff like that in the background of it. I kind of wonder how much this one does. I know that it's already the first volume's out in English. So if you've read this one, what were your thoughts of it? Let me know in the comments down below. At number 8, it's a little hard to be a villainess of an Otome game in modern society. This one is written by Tofuro Futsukaichi with illustrations by Kei. So, hey, look at Kei having back-to-back titles here. This is licensed for English release by 7 Seas. They just announced the license, so it'll be coming out sometime in 2022. When an exhausted career woman is reincarnated as Kanroona, the villainess of an Otome game born in the 1990s, she's determined to win at any cost. She may lose the love interest's heart, but she refuses to be ruined. Armed with the foreknowledge of the economic crash looming on Japan's horizon, Runa must revitalize her father's company and secure her freedom for herself and her new family. I think this one's kind of cool. I kind of like the concept of it. I like that it's like the modern world. I like that it's going to pull from events of the modern world. And I could see this being kind of cool depending on how much effort the author's putting into the research of it and sort of tying it into past events. It could be better than the average isekai. At number 7, we have the EXO-DRIVE Reincarnation Games All Japan Isekai Battle Tournament. Jesus. This is written by Keiso with illustrations by Tsukasa Kiryu and Zunta. Now, funny enough, the light novel is not licensed for English release, but the manga adaptation is. The manga has been licensed by 7 Seas. This one, Keiso, this is actually, funny enough, not the only Keiso title in this top 10, and his other title is indeed licensed for English release, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. First off, being reborn in another world is a tournament sport in this hilarious, action-packed isekai series. In the not-so-distant future, isekai is a way of life. The world has perfected how to hit an average teenager with a truck to launch them into a new world for a fantasy adventure. But once that's done, how do you keep it entertaining? Set up a televised tournament, of course. Roaring crowds can follow a chosen hero through his death, rebirth, and quest to save another world, armed with special tech for cheat skills, stat indexes, and whatever else is needed. Surely this is all in good fun, and no one would abuse this kind of reincarnation technology. Wow, it's actually a lot more interesting when they put it with that last little bit there. Now, I'm not familiar with Keiso as a writer, so I can't say whether they're any good or not. But yes, obviously it's an isekai. But I am a little, like, it could be good if it is really like a very biting kind of commentary on isekai. You know what I mean? Like, isekai has been so... Oh my god, there's been so much isekai. Like light novels have been really, really pervasive with the whole isekai thing, but even manga, and then, because of light novels and manga, anime, yeah, like if we're in the hands of a really good author, this idea could be really cool. Like, it could be this really kind of like biting and satirical commentary on like reality television and isekai, or it could just be a hot mess. I really don't know. I don't know. At number 6, we have Babel. This is written by Kuji Furumiya with illustrations by Haruyuki Morisawa. Now, interestingly enough, this is, I believe it's the prequel, like I'm positive it's a prequel to Unnamed Memory, which has previously been a #1 placer in the Tankobon list of Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi. And yet what's funny is that Babel, even though it's a prequel to that one, the Unnamed Memory is not in the top 10. It's kind of interesting. A college student, Shizuku Mizuse, has suddenly wandered into a different world from modern Japan. She's at her wit's end after landing at the frontier of a world where swords and magic are the norm. But she happens to meet an eccentric young mage, Eric, who is studying magic letters. Please, help me, please. Okay, but I'd like to ask you one favor in return. Tell me the letters of your country. In order to find a way to return to Japan, the two set out on a journey to the magical kingdom of Pharsis. The journey is full of absurd and mysterious mysteries, and so fate begins to turn. This is a story about words. It is a story of hope and change in the world that has just begun to emerge because of their journey. At number 5, we have Ishura. Now this is, again, the title by Keiso that I mentioned earlier, with illustrations by Kureta. This one has been licensed for English release by Yen On. This was also the #1 title on the Tankobon list of Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi last year. It was also, I think it was like the top of the new novels at that time, and it had received more votes than any other title in the history of Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi. So it was like, man, I mean, I don't know whether it's because it's, everything is sometimes less shiny when it's been out for a little while, or whether the quality tanked. I don't know. But obviously, at least the first volume was like a burner. So who knows? We'll see. In a world where the Demon King has died, a host of demigods capable of felling him have inherited the world. A master fencer who can figure out how to take out their opponent with a single glance. A lancer so swift they can break the sound barrier. A wyvern rogue who fights with 3 legendary weapons at once. An all-powerful wizard who can speak thoughts into being. And an angelic assassin who deals instant death. Eager to attain the title of one true hero, these champions each pursue challenges against formidable foes and spark conflicts themselves. The battle to determine the mightiest of the mighty begins. So yeah, like I said, this one, lots of hype, I think, for this one. I mean, especially like I said, after Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi last year, like that was crazy how huge this one was and how strongly it took that #1 spot. But again, I find it interesting that it's slipped so many spots. Like it's not even been able to maintain like top 2, top 3. So I don't know if that just speaks for the idea seemed brilliant from the get-go and the first volume was executed amazingly and maybe later volumes haven't been as good. Or maybe again, it's just not as shiny. I don't know. I really don't, but I guess we'll have at least some idea of what it's like when it releases in English in 2022. At number 4, we have Rebuild World. This was written by Nafuse with illustrations by Gin. The civilization of the past, called Old World, has produced many relics with its advanced technology. Rubble of unknown material, high-rise buildings floating in the air, strange medications, and weapons that are too powerful to be used by people. After the collapse of science and civilization, people gathered these relics and over time used them to rebuild human society. In this way, hunters were created, the warriors who faced the various dangers of the old world. Akira, a new hunter boy who wants to rise up from the slums, enters the ruins of the old world, where he meets a mysterious girl who only he can see. I believe somebody said last year that she's like a VR or something, like she's not a ghost or anything like that. But yeah, so this one on Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi before, so this is not its first time here. And I'll admit, I'm a bit of a sucker for these, like, hunt technology from old civilizations and that kind of, like, I'm kind of a sucker for those kind of stories. So I'd be tempted to check this one out if it ever gets licensed in English. I really don't know if it's going to be, though. I would have thought if it had a good shot, it would have gotten it by now, but who knows? I could be wrong. At number 3, we have Ascendance of a Bookworm. This is written by Miya Kazuki with illustrations by Yoshina. This is licensed for English release by J Novel Club. A certain college girl who's loved books ever since she was little dies in an accident and is reborn in another world that she knows nothing about. She is now mine, the sickly 5-year-old daughter of a poor soldier. To make things worse, the world she's been reborn in has a very low literacy rate, and books mostly don't exist. She'd have to pay an enormous amount of money to buy one. Mine resolves herself. If there aren't any books, she'll just have to make them. Her goal is to become a librarian. This story begins with her quest to make books so she can live surrounded by them. Dive into this biblio-fantasy written for book lovers and bookworms. So, like, at this point, can we just all agree that Ascendance of a Bookworm is the best written isekai story? I mean, again, like, I know everybody's going to argue one way or the other because fans love to argue, but if we're just going, like, with the fact that Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi isn't just one person's opinion. It is supposedly taken from, like, reviewers, readers, publishers, like a wide range of people. Ascendance of a Bookworm is the only isekai that I can think of that has spent as many years in the top 3 as, like, it's done more than anybody. It's been number 1 at least twice. It's been in the top 3. Other than that, it's either been number 2 or I guess now number 3. Like, Ascendance of a Bookworm is a really dominant title in the top 3 of the Tankobon. So I'm just, I mean, at this point, can we just all agree? Can we agree that it's probably one of the best isekai? I mean, you know, probably not. At number 2, we have Silent Witch. This one is written by Matsuri Isora with illustrations by Nana Fujimi. Miracles don't need chanting. This is the story of the weakest, most timid, yet strongest witch, Monica Everett. The only sorcerer in the world who can use silent, which is no chanting, magic, and a young hero who slayed the legendary Black Dragon by herself. But what is her true nature? The true reason I practiced silent magic was so that I wouldn't have to speak in public. When Monica was chosen as one of the 7 Watchers, without realizing it, she is forced to take a secret mission to protect the second prince. Weak and timid, yet the strongest. An antisocial, celestial witch hides her true identity and secretly brings evil to justice. So this one, like, I just gotta say I'm a sucker for the cover. Like, I love this cover. I am one of those people. I would buy a book just because it had a beautiful cover, and this would be a book I would probably try just because it's got a beautiful cover. I'd hope that it was written fairly well, but, you know, we'll see. In any case, I also kind of am a sucker for those shy, quiet, but yet very strong female characters. So this could be one to watch out for. Finally, at number 1, we have Sasuke and Pichon. This one is written by Bunko Loli with illustrations by Kantoku. Funny enough, this was licensed just a week ago at Anime New York City by Yen On. Like, is it a coincidence that just a few days before Kono Light Novel ga Sugoi was released, they announced the licensing of this title? In any case, even though Sasuke's droll corporate life is constantly filled with work, it leaves him tired and unfulfilled at the end of every day. In search of some companionship to fill the emptiness in his life, he visits a pet shop on a whim, not realizing he's about to change his life forever. After settling on an adorable bird and bringing it home, his new roommate reveals that it's actually an incredible sage from another world who promptly bestows Sasuke with supernatural powers as well as the ability to cross between worlds. All Sasuke wants to do is use these newfound powers to live in peace and comfort. But there are more than a few colorful characters who might get in the way of that. So, I think this one sounds like it could be kind of cool. I mean, it could be garbage, who knows? But I'm hoping by the fact that it hit number 1 in the Tankobon list here that it at least is somewhat competent. I guess we'll see. This one will be released obviously mid 2022, maybe even towards the end of 2022, and we'll get our chance to check it out then. So those are Kano Light Novel ga Sugoi's top 10 Tankobon, this of their 2022 edition. Now, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Are you familiar with any of these titles? I'd love to hear all about that in the comments down below. And of course, I'll leave a link so you can check out the top 10 Bunkobon video that I've also done. And as always, a big thank you to my YouTube members for helping to keep the lights on. And thank you for checking out this video. I look forward to seeing you in all of my future ones. Until then, bye-bye for now.